Modern life is sweeping people into a very fast-paced cycle. Each day is filled with work, plans, and unnamed worries. Many people wake up feeling rushed, eat hastily, work continuously, and then end the day feeling tired and stressed. When life becomes so hectic, it's easy for pressure to accumulate in the mind, making people feel burdened even though they lack nothing externally. In reality, fatigue doesn't just come from work or circumstances, but also from holding on to too many things in one's heart. Worrying about the future, regretting the past, comparing oneself to others, and trying to control everything around one. When the mind is constantly being pulled along by hundreds of thoughts at once, natural peace becomes elusive. The more one tries to hold on to things, the more insecure one feels. The ancients once said, "Those who know how to live simply find peace of mind, while those who live complicated lives suffer." Simplicity here doesn't mean living in poverty or abandoning goals, but rather knowing how to choose what is truly important and gently letting go of what is unnecessary. When you reduce comparisons, lower excessive expectations, and stop chasing after the opinions of others, your mind will naturally become lighter. Living simply begins with very small things. Simplicity in thought, avoiding creating unnecessary worries about unfulfilled scenarios. Simplicity in speech, saying what you mean, speaking sincerely, without trying to prove yourself. Simplicity in relationships, keeping only those who truly value you, and gently distancing yourself from connections that exhaust you. When each small aspect of life becomes streamlined, a sense of peace will gradually emerge. Many people believe that one must achieve great things to live a peaceful life, but the reality is the opposite. It is precisely by learning to live peacefully first that one has the energy and clarity to go further. A peaceful mind leads to clearer decisions, greater work efficiency, and sustained perseverance during difficult times. Living simply also means appreciating the present moment. When eating, focus on eating. When working, focus on working. When resting, allow yourself to truly rest. Don't let your phone, news, and invisible comparisons consume all your attention. Just by returning to what's happening right in front of you, you'll realize that life isn't as burdensome as you think. The journey to reducing anxiety isn't about changing everything in one day, but rather about taking small steps, making small choices, each day reducing perfectionism, lessening pressure, and being more forgiving of yourself. With persistence, your mood will gradually change, and a feeling of lightness will become a familiar state. Subscribe to the Simple Philosophy channel to learn lessons that will help you live a more peaceful and stable life. 1. Simplicity of thought is a crucial but often overlooked skill in modern life. People today are bombarded with information daily, from work and social media to news and the unspoken expectations of society. When the mind has to process too many thoughts simultaneously, stress naturally arises. Many believe that worrying will help them better prepare for the future, but in reality, most of the things that cause anxiety never happen. It is the complexity of thinking that is the root cause of mental fatigue and imbalance. Simplicity in thinking doesn't mean shallow thinking or neglecting responsibility. It's the ability to see things for what they truly are, without exaggeration or imagining negative scenarios that haven't happened yet. When a problem arises, a person with a simple mindset will focus on two things: what is actually happening and what needs to be done right now. They don't let their minds wander to uncertain situations. As a result, mental energy is saved for practical action, instead of being wasted on worry. One of the reasons people struggle to maintain simplicity in their thinking is the habit of comparison. When they see others succeed, many begin to wonder if they are falling behind. This leads to a host of negative thoughts, such as "I'm not good enough," "I'm slower," or "I might fail." These thoughts don't solve problems, they only weigh down the mind. By learning to simplify their thinking, people understand that each person has their own unique journey, and the important thing is to move forward step by step according to their abilities. Anxiety often stems from trying to control too many things. People want everything to go according to plan, want others to behave as they wish, and want a secure future. But life is inherently changeable. When trying to keep everything under control, the mind is constantly stressed. A simpler approach helps us accept that there are things beyond our control, and the only thing we truly control is our own actions and attitudes. This acceptance doesn't weaken us. Instead, it helps us remain calmer in the face of change. One major benefit of simple thinking is that it leads to quicker and clearer decision-making. Overcomplicated thinkers often consider too many possibilities, leading to hesitation and missed opportunities. In contrast, those with a streamlined mindset identify their main goal, assess the most important factors, and then act. They understand that no decision is absolutely perfect, and that adjustments are crucial when necessary. This flexibility allows them to move forward instead of getting stuck in a spiral of overthinking. Simplicity in thinking also helps improve relationships. Many conflicts in life don't stem from major events, but from overthinking. An unintentional remark can be misinterpreted as disrespect. A small action can be perceived as a lack of reverence. When thinking more simply, people tend to ask for clarification instead of making assumptions. This reduces misunderstandings and makes relationships smoother. The mind doesn't have to bear the burden of negative emotions created by oneself. To develop the habit of simple thinking, The first step is to recognize when your mind is overcomplicating things. Whenever you feel anxious, ask yourself what is really happening right now. Often the answer is simple: an unfinished task, a conversation that hasn't happened yet, or a decision that needs to be made. When you see the problem in its true dimensions, anxiety usually decreases significantly. Writing down what you're worried about is also a way to help your thoughts become clearer and more concise. Another habit that helps simplify thinking is limiting the amount of information you consume. Constantly reading too much negative news or comparing yourself to others on social media can easily overwhelm your mind with unnecessary worries. Choosing useful sources of information and dedicating time to activities that allow your mind to rest will create balance. When your mind isn't overloaded, your thoughts naturally become clearer and lighter. Simplicity of thought is also linked to living in the present moment. When the mind constantly wanders to the past or rushes to the future, people easily lose focus. Practicing paying attention to what you are doing, feeling your breath, or concentrating fully on a task helps reduce the chaotic flow of thoughts. Gradually, the brain becomes accustomed to a state of focus, thereby improving the ability to think clearly. This calmness helps people face difficulties with a more stable mindset. Many people fear that simple thinking will lead to a lack of depth, but the reality is different. Simple thinkers can still think deeply. The only difference is that they don't add unnecessary worries. They look at the core problem, understand the cause, and then find a solution. This clarity creates inner strength because they are not swept away by fleeting emotions. When the mind is not cluttered, the intellect naturally has space to function more effectively. In the journey of personal development, the ability to keep one's thoughts simple can be considered a fundamental skill. When thinking simply, people save a great deal of mental energy. That energy can be used for learning, creativity, building relationships, or taking care of one's health. Conversely, if most of the energy is wasted on worry, efficiency in all areas decreases. Therefore, practicing simple thinking is not a small thing, but a change with long-lasting effects. Ultimately, simplicity in thinking isn't a state achieved in a single day, but rather the result of continuous practice. Whenever you realize you're overthinking, gently bring your mind back to the fundamental question: what's most important right now? By repeating this habit daily, your mind gradually learns to react calmly to any situation. And as your thinking becomes simpler, unnecessary worries gradually disappear, giving way to a feeling of lightness, clarity, and stability in every step of your life. 2. Avoiding comparisons with others is one of the most important ways to achieve peace of mind in modern life. When people constantly compare themselves to the success, income, appearance, or status of others, feelings of inadequacy easily arise, even if one's own life is stable. Simply seeing someone achieve something greater immediately creates anxiety. This habit of comparison silently robs people of the peace they seek. From a young age, people are accustomed to being compared. In school, there's comparison of grades. In the workplace, there's comparison of achievements. In life, there's comparison of material possessions and social status. When this habit persists for many years, many people unconsciously consider comparison normal. However, what few realize is that each person is born into different circumstances, has different abilities, and a different path of development. Comparing to completely different paths often only creates pressure without providing any real value. When a person constantly compares themselves to others, their mind easily falls into two states. One is a feeling of inferiority when they see others doing better, and the other is a feeling of arrogance when they think they are superior. Both of these states disrupt inner balance. Those with low self-esteem often lack the confidence to act, while those with arrogance easily lose the humility necessary to continue learning. When comparison stops, people begin to reflect on their own journey and understand that the most important thing is to improve compared to their past selves. Not comparing oneself to others doesn't mean being indifferent to growth. On the contrary, when people aren't caught up in looking at others, they have more energy to focus on their personal goals. Instead of thinking about how far the other person has come, they ask themselves what they can do better today than yesterday. This small shift in perspective creates sustainable motivation, because motivation stems from a desire for growth, not from competitive pressure. One of the reasons comparison is becoming increasingly common is social media. Every day, people see countless images of other success, happiness, and perfection. However, what is shared is often only the tip of the iceberg. Few people post about the difficulties or failures behind the scenes. When looking at this incomplete picture, many people easily think they are lagging behind everyone else. If they understand that each image reflects only a very small part of reality, their minds will be less stressed and calmer. People who don't compare themselves to others tend to feel more content with what they have. This contentment isn't about stopping, but rather about being grateful for the present while continuing to strive. Appreciating small steps forward gives people more motivation to keep going. Conversely, constantly looking at others' achievements can easily diminish one's own progress, leading to a feeling of never being enough. This prolonged feeling of inadequacy leads to mental fatigue and a loss of joy in life. Avoiding comparison also helps to create healthier relationships. When people are constantly in a competitive state, they easily view the success of others with envy. This reduces sincerity in communication and creates an invisible distance between people. By letting go of comparison, people can genuinely congratulate others on their successes and learn from them without feeling pressured. Relationships therefore become more relaxed and positive. Another benefit of not comparing oneself to others is that it helps people understand their own unique value. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. Some are good communicators, some are good analysts, some are persistent, and some are creative. Constantly comparing oneself to others easily leads people to focus only on what they lack, forgetting their existing abilities. By pausing and observing themselves, they recognize strengths they can develop and, from there, build a path that suits them. To reduce the habit of comparing yourself to others, the first step is to recognize when your mind begins to compare. Whenever you find yourself feeling down because of someone else's success, ask yourself what is causing you to feel pressured. This question helps shift your attention from others back to yourself. When you understand that the discomfort stems from a desire for self-improvement, you can transform it into positive action instead of letting it become envy. Acknowledging your feelings without judgment helps your mind gradually become more stable. Another practical approach is to focus on the process rather than the outcome. When only looking at the final results of others, people easily feel a huge gap. But when we understand that every achievement requires time and long-term effort, we realize we are also on a similar path. Every small step forward today is valuable, even if it doesn't produce big results immediately. This patience helps to reduce impatience and pressure. Practicing gratitude also helps reduce the habit of comparison. When you take a few minutes each day to think about what you have, such as health, family, learning opportunities, or acquired skills, your mind will feel more fulfilled. This feeling of fulfillment reduces the need to look at other people's lives. When attention returns to the positive aspects of the present, the mind naturally becomes lighter. Not comparing yourself to others isn't something that can be done overnight, as it's a long-standing habit. However, each time you realize you're comparing yourself and gently stop, you've taken another step toward building inner peace. Over time, your mind becomes accustomed to focusing on your own journey, and the feeling of pressure gradually diminishes. Each person's life is like a unique road, but at a different pace. Some move quickly at the beginning, some progress slowly but steadily, and some change direction many times before finding the right path. Understanding this helps people worry less about their position compared to others. The most important thing is to continue moving forward according to one's own abilities. When freed from the constant pressure of comparison, people experience greater peace in each day. They work with focus, rest without guilt, and enjoy the small moments of life. This serenity doesn't come from having more than others, but from understanding that their own journey is meaningful enough. And when the mind is no longer drawn to constant comparisons, mental energy is unleashed, allowing people to live more steadily, confidently, and peacefully on their own path. 3. Knowing when enough is one of the important wisdoms that helps people maintain peace amidst life's many temptations. When people don't understand what enough means, they easily fall into a never-ending cycle of desires. Achieving one thing leads to wanting another, and attaining one success leads to chasing even bigger goals. This process keeps the mind constantly stressed, because the feeling of not having enough always persists, even when life already has many good things. Greed doesn't always manifest itself explicitly. It often begins with small, reasonable desires: a desire for a more stable life, an improved income, a greater sense of recognition. If kept within reasonable limits, these desires can become a driving force for growth. But when people reach their limit, desires gradually turn into pressure and constant comparison with others. At that point, the mind no longer feels the joy of the present but only sees what it lacks. Knowing when enough is enough doesn't mean giving up effort or stopping growth. It means understanding the value of what you have while calmly continuing to move forward. People who understand what enough is still work hard and learn every day, but they don't let desires control their emotions. When they achieve a good result, they know when to stop to acknowledge and be grateful, instead of immediately feeling dissatisfied because others have achieved more. This balance makes life lighter and more sustainable. In modern life, people are often caught up in the relentless pursuit of accumulating money, material possessions, and fame. These things aren't inherently bad, but when accumulation becomes the sole goal, people easily lose time for family, health, and inner peace. Many only realize this when they've gone a long way and feel exhausted despite having achieved much. Looking back, they understand that if they had known when enough was enough, they could have lived a more balanced life. Knowing when you have enough helps people avoid feelings of envy. When you constantly think you're lacking, the success of others can easily make you feel resentful. But when you understand that everyone has their own journey and that you already have many valuable things, you can view the success of others with respect and learn from it. Your mind then becomes open and light, no longer drawn into negative emotions. This peace is the foundation for building positive and sincere relationships. Another major benefit of knowing when enough is that it helps people make wiser decisions. When greed is excessive, people are more likely to choose short-term but risky paths, simply because they want quick results. Conversely, those who understand what is enough are usually more patient. They choose paths that align with their values and abilities. This patience helps them build lasting success instead of chasing fleeting results. Knowing when you have enough also helps people enjoy life more deeply. When you no longer feel a constant sense of inadequacy, you begin to notice the small but meaningful things. A warm meal, a peaceful morning, a sincere conversation. These moments may have been overlooked before because your mind was always preoccupied with bigger goals. When you learn to stop and appreciate the present, you feel the value of each day more clearly. To cultivate contentment, it's crucial to regularly reflect on what you've already achieved. Many people tend to look ahead, forgetting that they've already come a long way. By taking the time to acknowledge your progress, however small, a sense of contentment will gradually develop. From this feeling of contentment, you can continue to strive with a calm rather than stressed mindset. Another simple practice is to limit unnecessary desires. Before pursuing a new goal, ask yourself whether it truly offers long-term value or is merely a fleeting desire. This question helps us realize that many things that seem important are actually unnecessary. By reducing unnecessary desires, the mind has more space for truly important values such as health, family, learning, and peace. Those who know contentment tend to have a more resilient inner self in the face of change. When life changes, they are less likely to panic because they don't place their happiness entirely in material possessions or fame. They understand that external things may come and go, but inner peace is the lasting foundation. This resilience helps them face difficulties with greater stability and clarity of mind. Life doesn't demand that people give up all their desires, but it always reminds them that desires need a limit. When people understand what is enough, they are no longer caught up in an endless race. They still move forward, still develop, but their steps become lighter and more conscious. From there, greed is gradually replaced by mindfulness, and life becomes more harmonious. Knowing when you have enough doesn't diminish you. It helps you become more profound. People who know when they have enough often have a calm perspective, live a slow but steady life, and radiate positive energy to those around them. When each person learns to recognize their own contentment, society becomes less stressful and more empathetic. If you find these insights valuable, please share the video with your loved ones and subscribe to the Simple Philosophy channel to learn lessons that will help you live a more peaceful and meaningful life every day. For reducing desires is one of the important paths to a more peaceful life amidst the many changes. When desires are too great, the mind is constantly waiting for something to happen, waiting to achieve a higher position, a greater income, a more perfect life. This constant waiting easily leads to feelings of deprivation, even though people already possess many valuable things. When desires decrease, people begin to see the values already present, and from there, feel contentment in the present moment. Many people believe that the more they desire, the more motivated they are, but this is only true when desires are within reasonable limits. When desires exceed the mind's capacity for balance, it creates prolonged pressure, leading to constant stress and disappointment. The reason is simple. The greater the desire, the greater the gap between reality and expectations, and the greater this gap, the stronger the feeling of dissatisfaction. Therefore, reducing desires doesn't diminish effort but helps people move forward with a more stable mindset. In modern life, people are often caught up in the relentless pursuit of accumulation. They crave more money, more fame, more recognition, and more experiences that others have. Seeing the lives of others, many unconsciously set new goals for themselves without questioning whether they are truly necessary. Their minds then become preoccupied with a multitude of desires, and each unfulfilled desire adds another layer of pressure. When desires are reduced, the mind begins to breathe, and peace gradually returns. The story of a man who always wants more is a familiar image to many. He works day and night hoping to build a better life, initially to provide for his family, then to achieve a higher position, and finally to accumulate more wealth. Each time he achieves a goal, his joy is short-lived before he sets another target. Even his rare days off become time for him to contemplate work and his next plans. Life gradually becomes a relentless pursuit of achievement, with no time to pause and appreciate the simple joys of life. A sudden health setback changed his perspective on life. During his long hospital stay, he realized that the things he had once considered most important couldn't bring him peace during difficult times. What warmed his heart wasn't wealth or status, but the care of his family, the simple yet sincere conversations. During those days, he understood that simply having stable health and the safety of his loved ones was a great happiness. Realizing this, he began to adjust his lifestyle, working diligently but no longer working day and night as before, dedicating more time to his family and self-care. This change brought him much greater peace of mind. This story illustrates that desire doesn't always bring joy. When desire becomes an unending habit, people easily forget the original purpose of their efforts. Initially, we work to live better lives, but as desire increases relentlessly, we end up living only to work. This reversal leads to exhaustion without realizing the real cause lies in wanting too much. Reducing expectations doesn't mean giving up on dreams. It's a process of choosing what's truly important and letting go of what's unnecessary. When a person understands what brings lasting value to their life, they won't be swept away by every opportunity or comparison. They still move forward, but their steps become more stable because they don't carry so many expectations. This stability helps them experience less disappointment when results aren't immediate. One major benefit of reducing desires is that it helps people appreciate the present. When the mind is no longer constantly drawn to distant goals, we begin to notice the small but lasting joys. A peaceful evening, a meal with family, a workday ending with a feeling of satisfaction. These things, which might have previously been considered commonplace, become a clear and tangible source of happiness when desires are diminished. Reducing expectations also helps make relationships smoother. When people expect too much from others, they are easily disappointed when others don't meet those expectations. But when expectations are reasonably adjusted, we can more easily accept differences and understand that everyone has their own limits. This acceptance makes relationships more stable and less conflict-ridden. People who live with moderate expectations often bring a sense of ease to those around them because they don't put invisible pressure on others. To practice reducing desires, it's important to regularly ask yourself if what you're pursuing is truly necessary. Not every desire needs to be held onto. When you realize that some goals stem from comparison or social pressure, you can gently let go. Letting go doesn't diminish a person's value. It allows them to focus on what truly matters. When energy isn't scattered by too many desires, people can dedicate their efforts to the most important goals. Reducing expectations also helps people maintain stable mental health. A mind constantly chasing high expectations easily falls into a state of prolonged stress. Conversely, when one knows when to stop at a sufficient level, the mind becomes more relaxed, sleep is deeper, and emotions are more stable. This stability not only improves personal life but also leads to greater work efficiency. As people with peaceful minds tend to make wiser decisions, life doesn't require people to have a lot to be happy. The important thing is knowing what you truly need and having the courage to let go of what's superfluous. When desires decrease, disappointment also decreases, and joy begins to emerge from the simplest things. Those who understand this will walk through life with a light heart, not because they have few goals, but because they know which goals are worth keeping and which should be let go of. When individuals learn to reduce their desires, they not only find peace in their own lives but also spread serenity to those around them. A person who lives simply, knows contentment, and doesn't chase endless desires often brings a sense of security and comfort to the group. As a result, the living environment becomes more peaceful, and relationships are built on sincerity rather than the pressure of achievement. Reducing desires, therefore, is not about giving up, but rather a path to returning to enduring values and more clearly appreciating the happiness present in each day of life. 5. Slowing down is an increasingly necessary choice in modern life. When life moves too fast, people easily get caught up in the whirlwind of work, responsibilities, and a constant stream of goals. Day after day, many people accomplish a lot but feel life is rushing by without a sense of enjoyment. Therefore, slowing down isn't about being lazy, but about being more conscious of each moment. When people live too fast, they often focus only on the destination and forget the journey. They work to wait for the weekend, strive to wait for a vacation, and aim for a certain milestone in the future. But when that milestone arrives, they set a new goal and keep running. Life becomes a series of waiting, without truly having time to appreciate the joys that are already present. Slowing down allows people to pause and realize that many good things are already around them. A quiet morning, a simple meal, a sincere conversation, or even just the feeling of completing a small task can bring joy. These joys may not be grand, but they are lasting and easy to nurture. When the mind is no longer so hurried, people begin to see things they previously overlooked. They realize that happiness isn't always found in great achievements, but often in the very ordinary moments of life. Slowing down also helps people understand themselves better. When no longer caught up in the constant pace, we have time to observe our emotions, realize what stresses us out, what truly makes us happy, and what is no longer necessary. This self-understanding helps make life decisions clearer. We know what to keep, what to reduce, and what to let go of to make life easier. Another benefit of slowing down is that it helps deepen relationships. When people are too busy, they tend to give each other hurried conversations, quick nods, or meetings that lack genuine attention. But by slowing down, we can listen more, talk more, and be fully present when we are with others. It is this presence that creates lasting connections that nothing else can replace. Slowing down also allows the mind to rest. When things happen too quickly, the brain is constantly processing information, easily leading to fatigue and prolonged stress. Slowing down, doing one thing at a time thoroughly, and allowing yourself small breaks throughout the day helps the mind recover. When the mind is rested, energy returns, and work efficiency improves. Many people worry that living a slower pace of life will leave them behind, but the reality is quite the opposite. Those who consciously live at a slower pace tend to be more focused, make fewer mistakes, and are more persistent in the long run. They don't chase after everything at once but choose a clear path, thus progressing more steadily. This stability helps them go far without becoming exhausted along the way. Living slowly doesn't require big, immediate changes. It starts with very small things. Eating a little slower, walking a little slower, listening to others a little longer, and taking a few minutes each day to breathe deeply and be present. These small changes, repeated daily, will gradually create a new, gentler, and more stable rhythm of life. When people slow down, they begin to realize that joy is not a rarity. Joy is present in many small moments, it's just that we were too busy before to see it. Once we learn to slow down, we will see that life is no longer a constant race, but a journey where we can savor each step. And it is in that journey that many simple yet genuine joys will gradually emerge, helping the soul become more peaceful each day. 6. Having fewer possessions is a simple yet highly effective way to make life lighter and clearer. Many people think that objects only take up space in their living environment, but in reality they also take up space in their minds. When there are too many things around, the eyes are constantly seeing more images, the brain has to process more information, and the feeling of invisible busyness increases. Conversely, when the living space is tidy and just the right amount of things, the mind naturally feels more relaxed. In modern life, owning many things is often seen as a sign of abundance. People buy more clothes, appliances, decorative items, and many other things with the thought that the more they have, the more comfortable their lives will be. However, after a while, many items become rarely used but remain there, taking up space and creating a cluttered feeling. This clutter, though small, accumulates over time and can cause people to feel tired without understanding the cause. When you have too many things, finding something takes more time each time. Cleaning becomes more burdensome, and a feeling of incompleteness always persists because there's always something to organize. This makes it difficult for the mind to truly rest. Conversely, when the number of things is reduced, everything becomes easier to manage, cleaning is faster, and the feeling of control over life is clearer. This sense of control helps the mind achieve peace. Having fewer possessions doesn't mean living in poverty, but rather keeping only what is truly necessary and valuable. When each item in the house has a clear purpose, the living space becomes more harmonious. Looking around, you don't see clutter, but rather neatness. This neatness directly impacts emotions, making people feel lighter, sometimes without even realizing why. Another benefit of reducing possessions is that it helps people better understand their true needs. When we stop shopping out of habit or on impulse, we begin to ask ourselves questions before bringing something home. Do I really need it? Will it be used long-term or just provide fleeting pleasure? These questions make choices more conscious and gradually lead to a habit of living a simple yet high-quality life. A tidy living space also facilitates concentration. When a desk only contains essential items, attention isn't distracted by too many surrounding details. When the bedroom is spacious and uncluttered, sleep is more restful because the environment creates a sense of tranquility. These seemingly small changes have a long-term impact on mental health and work efficiency. Having fewer possessions also saves time and energy. Fewer things mean less organizing, less maintenance, and less worry about loss or damage. The energy previously spent managing too many items can be redirected to more valuable activities such as learning, self-care, or spending time with family. When energy is used wisely, life naturally becomes more balanced. Interestingly, when people begin to declutter, many realize that the feeling of lightness comes not only from a clean space but also from the feeling of letting go. Each time we get rid of an unnecessary item, we are also letting go of a small attachment in our minds. This process gradually creates a sense of freedom, because we are no longer bound by so many things to hold on to. Having fewer possessions also helps people appreciate what they have. When the number is smaller, each remaining item is used more frequently and takes on a clearer meaning. We take better care of them, use them longer, and appreciate their true value instead of letting them be forgotten in a corner. This appreciation makes life more profound, as we no longer chase quantity but focus on quality. Getting started can be very simple. Just choose a small corner of your home and reorganize, keeping only what you really need and gently removing what you no longer use. Once you see that space become tidy, you'll be motivated to continue in other areas. This process doesn't need to happen quickly. Just take small, steady steps. Each small step will bring a noticeable sense of comfort, and over time your entire living space will transform. When the number of possessions decreases, the mind also becomes more organized. Less external clutter reduces internal clutter. We can focus more easily, rest more easily, and feel more in control of life. This isn't because life is less busy, but because we've eliminated unnecessary elements that complicate things. A more relaxed life doesn't necessarily have to start with big changes. Sometimes simply getting rid of a few possessions, reducing unnecessary hoarding, and breaking the habit of holding on to things for an uncertain future can make a noticeable difference. When your living space becomes more open, your mind also has more room to rest and think more clearly. Keeping fewer possessions is therefore not just a way to organize your home, but also a way to reorganize your life. When everything around you becomes tidy and just enough, it's easier to return to what truly matters. And it is in this simplification that a sense of peace gradually emerges, quiet but enduring, helping each day pass more gently and clearly. 7. Avoiding juggling too many tasks simultaneously is one of the key principles for reducing stress and maintaining work-life balance. Many believe that the more tasks one does, the more energetic and efficient they appear. But in reality, trying to handle too many things at once can easily lead to mental overload. Prolonged overload increases stress levels, decreases productivity, and ultimately results in taking longer to complete tasks. The human mind works most efficiently when focusing on one task at a time. Constantly switching between multiple tasks forces the brain to continuously shift its attention, consuming a significant amount of energy that we often don't realize. After a day of multitasking, many people feel exhausted even if the actual workload isn't particularly heavy. This fatigue stems not only from the work itself but also from the constant mental distraction. When people take on too much, they easily fall into the feeling of always being short of time. The to-do list is always long. Before finishing one task, they have to think about another, leaving the mind no chance to rest. This constant feeling of being pushed creates invisible pressure and, over time, reduces enthusiasm for work. Conversely, when focusing on completing each task thoroughly, one feels a clearer sense of progress and a sense of relief after each task is finished. Avoiding juggling too many tasks simultaneously also improves work quality. When attention is focused on a single task, it's easier to notice details, avoid mistakes, and find more efficient ways to do things. Many small errors often stem from rushing or dividing attention across multiple tasks at once. By reducing the number of concurrent tasks, errors decrease, and the time spent correcting them also decreases. Another important benefit is that it gives the mind space for creative thinking. When schedules are always packed, the brain only operates in task processing mode without time for deeper reflection. Conversely, when working in clear steps and not putting pressure on oneself to complete everything immediately, the mind has the opportunity to generate new ideas. Many good solutions often emerge when people have time to pause instead of constantly chasing a to-do list. Avoiding juggling too many tasks simultaneously helps maintain energy levels over time. When you do too many things at once, energy is quickly depleted, leading to fatigue and reduced motivation. However, by dividing tasks into manageable parts and completing them step by step, energy is used more evenly. This helps maintain stamina and prevent burnout. To practice this, it's important to learn how to prioritize. Not everything needs to be done immediately. When you clearly identify which task is most important at the moment and focus on completing it first, everything will feel clearer. After completing it, you can move on to the next task with a lighter mindset instead of juggling multiple tasks at once. A small but effective change is to dedicate uninterrupted work periods. During these periods, focus on a single task and temporarily ignore distractions such as notifications or non-urgent requests. Just a few such focused periods each day can significantly increase work efficiency while reducing stress. When people stop trying to do everything at once, they are more likely to feel satisfied with what they have accomplished. Each completed task becomes a clear step forward, creating motivation to continue. Conversely, when doing many things at once but leaving each one unfinished, the feeling of incompleteness keeps the mind constantly stressed. Modern life is always full of things to do, but doing more doesn't always mean doing better. Knowing how to limit the number of tasks you can handle at any given time is a way to stay calm and efficient. When you focus on one step at a time, one task at a time, pressure decreases, energy is conserved, and results are usually more solid. Not juggling too many tasks at once doesn't mean doing less, but doing it smarter. When the mind isn't stretched thin by too many directions, people can maintain stability, work more deeply, and feel their progress more clearly. This stability makes the long journey smoother, more sustainable, and less stressful each day. 8. Letting go of the past is one of the important abilities that helps people maintain inner peace. Much of the weariness doesn't come from what's happening in the present, but from the mind constantly dwelling on old events, old mistakes, old words, or losses that happened long ago. When memories are repeated too many times in thought, negative emotions are also repeated, making people feel burdened even though their current circumstances may be different. People tend to hold on to hurtful things longer than things that bring joy. A hurtful word can be remembered for a long time, while many good things fade away quickly. This makes the mind feel like it's carrying an invisible bag full of unresolved emotions. As that bag grows heavier, the journey through life becomes slower and more tiring. Letting go isn't about forgetting everything, but about learning to put the past down so you can move forward more easily. Many people think letting go is very difficult, believing that if they let go, what they've experienced will become meaningless. In reality, the opposite is true. Holding on to sadness or regret only prolongs its impact. When we let go, we don't deny the past, but simply accept that it has fulfilled its purpose. Every experience, whether joyful or sad, has left a lesson. Once the lesson is understood, continuing to carry the pain is no longer necessary. One reason people find it hard to let go is the feeling that things could have been different. We regret not choosing differently, not saying differently, not acting differently. But the truth is, at that moment, we could only act according to our perceptions and circumstances. When we understand this, we can empathize with ourselves more easily. This empathy helps us look back on the past with a gentler perspective instead of blame. And when the blame diminishes, letting go becomes more natural. Letting go of the past helps people live more fully in the present. When the mind no longer constantly dwells on the past, we have more energy to focus on what is happening right now. Work becomes clearer, relationships are better nurtured, and the small joys in life are more easily recognized. Often, happiness is absent because we are preoccupied with remembering what we have lost, thus missing what we possess. One major benefit of letting go is improved emotional stability. Holding on to anger or regret keeps the mind in a state of mild but prolonged stress. This makes people easily tired and prone to negative reactions in even minor situations. When you let go, emotions gradually subside, calmness increases, and your reactions to life become more composed. Those who know how to let go aren't necessarily free from difficulties, but rather those who don't allow past difficulties to continue dominating their present. Letting go doesn't mean everything will change overnight. It's a process that happens in small steps. Whenever an old memory surfaces, simply acknowledge it, accept that it happened, and gently bring your attention back to the present. With practice, your mind will become accustomed to not clinging to the past. It's like putting down a heavy object. It might feel strange at first, but once you've put it down, you'll clearly feel the relief. Many people realize that the things that once hurt them the most later become important lessons that help them grow. Without those experiences, they might not fully understand the value of patience, tolerance, or choosing the right path. Looking back from this perspective, the past is no longer a burden but becomes part of a journey that makes us stronger. And once we see that meaning, letting go becomes easier because we know we have received what we needed to receive. Letting go of the past also helps make current relationships lighter. When old wounds are held onto, people easily bring suspicion or defensiveness into new relationships. This makes it difficult for connections to deepen. But when old emotions are released, we can be more open, listen more, and create more genuine relationships. The lightness in our hearts often radiates to how we treat others. To practice letting go, it's important to remind yourself that time is always moving forward. Life doesn't stop at any one event, and we don't need to stop there. Each day brings a new opportunity to start over, to make different choices, and to build better experiences. When you understand that there's still so much to be created in the present, you'll be less attached to things you can't change. A person who knows how to let go isn't someone who forgets everything, but someone who knows how to retain the lessons learned and put down the burden. When the burden is lifted, the steps become lighter, the perspective broadens, and the mind becomes more at peace. This peace doesn't come from life no longer being difficult, but from no longer carrying the past with us at every step. If you still feel burdened by past events, try starting by forgiving yourself and accepting that every experience has contributed to making you the person you are today. Subscribe to the Simple Philosophy channel to learn together each day how to let go of unnecessary things and cultivate lasting peace in your soul. 9. In modern life, people can connect with hundreds, even thousands, of people through social media and work relationships. The ever-growing list of acquaintances leads many to believe they have a vast network. However, when faced with real difficulties, not everyone on that list is willing to stand by them. This makes many realize that the quantity of relationships doesn't determine the value of those connections. It's sincerity that creates lasting strength. A genuine relationship begins with respect and understanding. When two people meet not for personal gain or calculation, but because they feel they can trust and share, that relationship gradually becomes a solid emotional support system. Everyone needs to feel heard and accepted. When with genuine people, you don't need to try to be someone else. You don't need to say polite things, and you don't need to hide your true feelings. That comfort is a great value that superficial relationships cannot provide. Many young people today spend a lot of time expanding their social circle, attending numerous meetings, and connecting with various groups, but rarely have time to care for those who are truly important. They fear that if they don't maintain many connections, they will miss opportunities in their work and life. However, when relationships are limited to exchanging business cards or engaging in small talk, those connections are often very fragile. As soon as circumstances change and the benefits disappear, the relationship easily fades. Conversely, relationships built over time, with care and trust, tend to last much longer. This could be a friend who's always there to listen when you're tired, a colleague who's always supportive when things get tough, or a family member who quietly offers encouragement. Such relationships don't need many promises, but they provide the sense of security that people always seek. Choosing genuine relationships doesn't mean isolating yourself or rejecting new connections. The key is knowing how to distinguish between relationships that require time investment and those that are merely superficial. Understanding this will alleviate the pressure to please everyone. You can be polite to many, but only reserve deep trust for those who truly deserve it. This choice conserves emotional energy and brings peace of mind. A common misconception is that the more people you know, the greater your chances of success. In reality, those with a few high-quality connections often receive far more strong support than those with hundreds of superficial relationships. When relationships are built on sincerity, each act of help comes from a voluntary act, not from an exchange of benefits. This willingness builds lasting trust and opens up many sustainable opportunities. Sincerity also helps people learn to live more authentically. When constantly maintaining too many social relationships, people easily become exhausted from having to maintain an image. and say things that don't entirely come from their true feelings. Conversely, when with people who understand them, they can relax, share both joys and sorrows without fear of judgment. This comfort helps stabilize their mental state and allows them to live more naturally each day. Another crucial element of a genuine relationship is patience. Not every relationship deepens immediately. Trust takes time to build. When we take the time to listen, help, and keep our promises in the smallest things, others gradually feel a sense of trustworthiness. From simple actions repeated over time, the relationship will become strong without the need for grand pronouncements. In life, there will be times when we realize that a long list of acquaintances doesn't lessen loneliness. What truly makes a person feel complete is having a few people to call when needed, a few people to meet without needing to prepare a sentence, a few people who understand us even when we are silent. Such relationships are like small but enduring anchors, helping us get through difficult times without feeling lost. Choosing genuine relationships also helps us learn how to be trustworthy to others. If we desire true friends, we also need to learn to live honestly. This is demonstrated by keeping promises, respecting the feelings of others, and not exploiting trust for personal gain. When we live this way, people with similar values will naturally stay by our side, while relationships based solely on self-interest will gradually fade away. This is a natural process that helps make life more emotionally balanced. A simple life isn't about having few acquaintances, but about having deep enough relationships to bring peace. By focusing on quality over quantity, we stop chasing after many people just to avoid feeling left behind. Instead, we dedicate time to nurturing important relationships, talking more, listening more, and being more present in necessary moments. Ultimately, the value of a relationship isn't measured by the number of meetings or years of acquaintance, but by the level of trust and willingness to be there when needed. Understanding this allows us to appreciate those who are always there for us, while gently letting go of relationships that exist only out of social habit. The more we live this way, the lighter our minds become, the more stable our emotions, and the more meaningful our lives become. Choosing genuine relationships is a mindful decision. When we proactively choose sincerity, we not only build lasting connections but also create a safe emotional environment for ourselves. In that space, people can grow, rest, and move forward with the confidence that they are not alone on their life journey. 10. Throughout life, people often spend most of their time focusing on work, income, and long-term goals, but easily forget that health is the most important foundation of all of that. When young and healthy, many people think that taking care of their health can wait, as long as they have enough energy to work now. However, time waits for no one, and small habits repeated every day will silently create big results in the future. Health isn't just something to worry about when illness strikes. It's a continuous, daily effort. Adequate sleep, a balanced diet, a few minutes of light exercise, or timely rest are all small actions with long-lasting effects. When the body is well cared for, the mind becomes more stable, concentration improves, and work efficiency significantly increases. Conversely, when health is neglected, people often pay the price with prolonged fatigue, stress, and numerous other problems that arise over time. Many people only start paying attention to their health when warning signs appear. These could be persistent pain, decreased energy, or less than ideal health check results. Only then do they realize that if they had spent a little more time taking care of their bodies in the past, things could have been different. Unfortunately, damaged health often takes a long time to recover, and in some cases, the damage may never be reversed. Taking time to care for your health doesn't actually take away from work time. On the contrary, it saves a lot of time in the future. A healthy body allows people to work more persistently, take less time off due to illness, and maintain long-term stability in life. When healthy, people can pursue long-term goals without being interrupted by physical problems. This is a benefit that many people only realize after experiencing a decline in health. Taking care of your health doesn't necessarily have to start with big changes. Often simple things like walking every day, cutting back on fatty foods, drinking enough water, and going to bed a little earlier can make a noticeable difference over time. Small changes, when maintained consistently, will accumulate into big results. The human body responds very well to persistence, and good habits always yield worthwhile rewards. Another important benefit of healthcare is reduced anxiety about the future. Knowing that one's body is well cared for brings peace of mind and less worry about future health risks. This peace of mind leads to a lighter spirit, allowing people to focus on work and relationships instead of constantly fearing illness. Good health not only provides energy but also brings peace of mind. Within a family, someone who takes care of their health has a positive influence on those around them. When parents maintain a healthy lifestyle, children are more likely to follow suit. When a family member actively exercises, eats a balanced diet, and maintains a positive attitude, the overall atmosphere becomes more positive. Therefore, taking care of one's health is not only a responsibility to oneself but also a responsibility to loved ones. Many people believe that only those with ample free time can focus on their health, but the reality is that the busiest people are the ones who need the most care. Their hectic schedules make it even more crucial for them to maintain a healthy body to sustain their fast-paced lives. Even dedicating a short period each day to exercise or relaxation can significantly reduce accumulated stress. When the body gets proper rest, subsequent work performance is often much higher. Mental health is an integral part of overall health. Taking time to rest, read, take walks, or talk with loved ones helps the mind recover from work stress. When the mind is stable, people make wiser decisions and are less likely to experience burnout. A peaceful mind leads to a healthier body, and a healthy body in turn strengthens the mind, creating a positive cycle of mutual support. It's worth reflecting that many people are willing to work for years to accumulate financial security for the future, but hesitate to dedicate a few dozen minutes each day to taking care of their bodies. Meanwhile, if health is lost, all other plans become difficult to achieve. Money can be earned back, opportunities can be found again, but lost time and health are often very difficult to fully recover. Understanding this helps people view healthcare as a long-term investment rather than a time-consuming task. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle also teaches discipline and perseverance. Regular exercise, balanced meals, and consistent sleep schedules all require consistency. This consistency then spills over into other areas of life, helping people to be more organized and persistent in pursuing their goals. Therefore, taking care of one's health not only improves physical well-being but also contributes to building a strong character. The future is always full of uncertainties, but good health gives people more confidence when facing change. When the body is strong enough, people are ready to challenge themselves, ready to learn new things, and ready to overcome difficult periods without worrying too much about their endurance. This confidence is the silent source of strength that helps people go further in life. Ultimately, taking time to care for your health is not a luxury but a necessity. By starting with small steps and maintaining consistency, everyone can build a solid foundation of health for many years to come. When the body is healthy, the mind is stable, and energy is abundant. Many worries about the future naturally lessen. People can live more peacefully, work more efficiently, and enjoy life more fully each day. 11. In everyday life, much of people's troubles don't stem from difficult circumstances but from a competitive mindset. When people constantly feel the need to win, to be superior, to prove their worth to others, they easily fall into prolonged stress, sometimes without even realizing it. Conversely, those who learn to let go of the desire to win tend to live more peacefully, have more stable minds, and are less caught up in unnecessary negative emotions. The competitive mindset causes people to constantly compare themselves to others. When they see others succeed more, they easily become dissatisfied. When they achieve something, they worry that someone else will surpass them. This psychological state makes it difficult for people to enjoy the present moment because they always see life as an endless race. Mental fatigue accumulates over time and gradually becomes the source of many troubles. Not striving for superiority doesn't mean living without purpose or effort. The difference lies in focusing on self-improvement rather than trying to surpass others at all costs. When the goal is self-development, each step forward brings a sense of meaning and peace. However, when the goal is to surpass others, the joy is often short-lived, as a new point of comparison soon arises, causing renewed anxiety. In social relationships, the desire to win often leads to unnecessary conflicts. An unintentional remark can escalate into a prolonged argument simply because each side wants to prove they are right. When both prioritize their egos, the conversation shifts from finding a solution to a battle of defending their viewpoints. If one of the parties knows how to step back and avoids the constant struggle for victory, many conflicts can naturally subside, and the relationship can be preserved for the long term. People who don't compete or strive for superiority often create a comfortable atmosphere for those around them. When talking to them, others don't feel judged or pressured to prove anything. The communication atmosphere therefore becomes more relaxed and sincere. This comfortable environment helps relationships develop sustainably, because everyone wants to be around people who bring a sense of security and peace. Another important benefit of not competing is that it helps the mind focus on what truly matters. When not caught up in constant comparison, people have more energy to improve their skills, take care of their health, and build lasting values. Instead of wasting time proving themselves better than others in trivial matters, they dedicate their time to more meaningful goals. Life thus becomes clearer and more focused. Many workplace frustrations stem from a competitive mindset. When colleagues receive praise, competitive individuals easily feel resentful. When they make mistakes, they worry that others will judge them as incompetent. This mindset creates tension in the workplace and erodes their self-confidence. Conversely, those who don't place too much emphasis on winning or losing can view others' successes as motivation to learn and their own mistakes as opportunities for improvement. As a result, they maintain a stable mindset and progress more steadily. Not striving for superiority also helps people better control their emotions. When they don't feel the need to win in every situation, they are less provoked by criticism or comparisons. They understand that their value lies not in being better than others, but in their consistent daily growth. This realization helps them maintain composure even when facing stressful situations. Within a family, a non-competitive attitude contributes to a harmonious atmosphere. Many arguments between relatives don't really concern major issues, but rather stem from each person wanting to assert their own point of view. When someone knows how to compromise and doesn't try to win, the conversation usually becomes smoother and it's easier to find common ground. As a result, the family maintains warmth and lasting cohesion. It's noteworthy that those who don't compete or strive for superiority tend to gain more respect over time. Initially, they may not stand out because they don't try to show off, but their calmness and stability build a solid reputation. When problems arise, people tend to trust the opinions of those who remain objective and aren't swayed by ego. This respect comes naturally, without the need for competition. Not focusing on winning or losing also helps people enjoy life more deeply. When you don't view things from a win-lose perspective, each experience becomes a learning opportunity instead of a measure of achievement. A normal workday, a simple conversation, or a small step forward can bring a sense of fulfillment. Happiness no longer depends on your position compared to others, but stems from contentment with the process of living. Of course, giving up the habit of competing isn't something that can be done immediately. It requires self-reflection and daily practice. When you realize you're comparing yourself to others or trying to prove something, just stop for a moment and ask yourself if it's really necessary. Often, simply changing your perspective will reveal that most of those previous competitive struggles didn't bring lasting value. Gradually, as the habit of not competing or striving for superiority develops, the mind becomes much lighter. Small matters no longer cause intense emotional turmoil. External judgments no longer cause drastic mood swings. People feel freer because they don't have to constantly prove themselves to everyone. This freedom is the foundation of the inner peace that many people seek. Life is already full of challenges and pressures. Adding a constant race of winning and losing in your mind will only increase the burden. By letting go of unnecessary competition, people can conserve energy for truly important things like self-development, caring for family, and building lasting values. As a result, the number of worries decreases significantly, and each day becomes lighter and more peaceful. 12. In modern life, many people are accustomed to constant striving, forgetting that rest is also an important part of the journey to success. When the body and mind are tired but continue working relentlessly, efficiency not only fails to increase but also significantly decreases. Accumulated stress over time makes the mind irritable, unfocused, and prone to burnout. Therefore, knowing when to rest is not a sign of laziness, but rather a manifestation of self-understanding and self-care. Resting helps the body recover its depleted energy. When working for long periods, the nervous system has to process a lot of information, and the muscles are also under prolonged pressure. Without a period of relaxation, the body remains in a state of mild but continuous stress, leading to prolonged fatigue. Just a short break, deep breathing, gentle walking, or simply closing your eyes for a few minutes can help the body readjust its circadian rhythm and regain the necessary balance. The mind needs rest just like the body. When you think about too many things at once, your mind becomes cluttered, making it difficult to make accurate decisions. At such times, the more you try to think, the more stressed your mind becomes. Conversely, when people pause their work to relax their minds, many find that solutions become clearer upon returning. This shows that rest doesn't disrupt work efficiency. In fact, it improves the quality of thinking. Knowing when to rest also helps people control their emotions better. When overly tired, people tend to react strongly to small things. An unintentional remark can cause offense, and a minor issue can easily escalate into an argument. If the body is adequately rested, the mood is more stable, and the ability to listen and understand others improves. As a result, relationships become more harmonious and conflict-free. Many people worry that taking breaks will slow them down compared to others. In reality, those who balance work and rest tend to maintain higher performance over the long term. Those who work continuously without rest may achieve rapid progress in the short term, but are more likely to become exhausted and lose motivation afterward. Conversely, those who know when to rest maintain stable energy levels, thus making steady progress over the long term. Long-term success often belongs to those who maintain a steady pace, not those who rush for short periods. Resting is also a time for people to reconnect with themselves. When work is busy, many people live by habit without listening to their emotions. Quiet breaks help people realize how they are feeling, what is causing them stress, and what is making them happy. This self-awareness helps them adjust their lifestyles more appropriately and avoid letting pressure accumulate for too long. Another benefit of taking breaks is increased creativity. When the mind is overly stressed, thoughts tend to follow a rut and it's difficult to come up with new ideas. When relaxed, the brain functions more flexibly and the connections between ideas appear more naturally. Many people find that important ideas don't come during stressful work hours but rather when they take a walk, listen to music, or rest after a long day. Knowing when to rest is also a way to show self-respect. When people constantly push themselves to work even when tired, they easily develop prolonged stress and gradually lose joy in their work. By allowing themselves to rest properly, they send a message to themselves that their health and well-being are worth caring for. This feeling of being cared for helps increase self-confidence and a sense of satisfaction in life. In families, those who take adequate breaks tend to create a more relaxed atmosphere. Returning home exhausted, people are more likely to become impatient and less likely to share their feelings with loved ones. By taking time to rest before resuming other activities, they can converse with family in a more relaxed state, fostering warmer relationships. A short break can sometimes make a big difference in how people interact with each other. For effective rest, it's not about resting for a long time, but about resting properly. Some people rest but still check their phones for stressful news or continue thinking about work, so they still feel tired after resting. True rest is when the mind relaxes, temporarily escaping the pressures it's facing. A few minutes of deep breathing, a slow walk, or sitting quietly is enough to refresh the mind. Those who understand the value of rest tend to have a longer-term perspective on life. They know that human energy is finite, and using energy wisely is more important than constant striving. When energy is properly allocated between work and rest, overall efficiency increases, health is maintained, and mental stability is preserved, enabling one to face challenges. Knowing when to rest when tired can help people avoid many long-term health problems. Prolonged stress can affect sleep, digestion, and many other bodily functions. When rest is considered a natural part of life, the body has a greater chance of recovery, thereby reducing the risk of exhaustion and declining health. Physical stability also contributes to mental stability. Ultimately, rest doesn't weaken people, it makes them stronger. A person who knows when to stop can return to work with a clearer mind, more energy, and a more positive attitude. As a result, they solve problems more effectively and maintain perseverance throughout their long journey through life. When people understand that rest is an essential part of growth, they will no longer feel guilty about pausing, but will see it as preparation for a more solid next step. 14 People who live simply tend to find happiness more easily than those who live overly complicated lives, because they don't burden themselves with unnecessary expectations and pressure. When life is simplified, the mind becomes lighter, and the ability to find joy in small things increases significantly. Conversely, those who live overly complicated lives often set too many standards, too many goals, and too many expectations, making it difficult for them to be content with the present, even when they have many good things around them. Simplicity is primarily reflected in one's way of thinking. People who live simply tend to see things clearly and realistically. They focus on what they can do instead of worrying too much about what hasn't happened yet. When faced with difficulties, they find solutions step by step instead of overthinking and complicating matters. This approach helps them maintain composure, and composure is a crucial foundation for experiencing happiness in daily life. People who live complicated lives tend to compare themselves to others, speculate a lot, and are easily influenced by the opinions of those around them. They may possess valuable things but still feel unsatisfied because they constantly look at what others have. This constant comparison makes it difficult to find peace of mind, and when the mind is not at peace, it is difficult to experience complete joy. Meanwhile, people who live simply compare themselves less. They focus on their own journey and appreciate what they have. This appreciation leads to a more frequent feeling of contentment. Living simply also helps people reduce material pressure. When we don't chase after too many needs, we don't have to spend all our time pursuing things beyond our means. As a result, we have more time for family, our health, and activities that bring spiritual joy. People who live overly complicated lives often associate happiness with achieving more, so they are always in a state of not having enough. Those who live simply find contentment sooner, and when that feeling of contentment arises, happiness becomes much closer. Another characteristic of people who live simply is that they are easily satisfied with ordinary moments. A cozy meal, a quiet morning, or a sincere conversation can bring joy. These joys don't require grand conditions, so they occur frequently. Meanwhile, people who live overly complicated lives often only feel happy when they achieve major milestones, which don't happen every day. Therefore, their feelings of happiness are less frequent and more dependent on circumstances. Living simply also helps create more pleasant relationships. People who live simply tend to communicate sincerely, are less calculating, and don't place too many demands on others. As a result, they create a comfortable atmosphere for those around them, and they themselves feel more at ease in their relationships. People who live complicated lives sometimes carry too many thoughts and expectations, leading to disappointment when things don't go as planned. Repeated disappointment makes it difficult for them to maintain lasting happiness. One major benefit of a simple lifestyle is that it helps people maintain mental balance. When not overwhelmed by too many goals at once, one can take steady steps and have time to rest when needed. This balance helps maintain stable energy levels, resulting in less mood swings. People who live overly complicated lives often overload themselves with too many tasks at once, leading to prolonged stress and difficulty enjoying life. Living simply doesn't mean giving up on dreams or goals, but rather choosing what truly matters. When the number of goals decreases, focus increases, and the likelihood of achieving them also increases. The results achieved through focus often bring a deeper sense of satisfaction than chasing many different paths without achieving anything worthwhile. This sense of accomplishment also contributes to lasting happiness. People who live simply are more likely to be grateful because they recognize the value of the little things in life. When gratitude becomes a habit, the mind naturally gravitates towards positive things, and feelings of joy appear more frequently. Conversely, When constantly focusing on what one hasn't achieved, people easily fall into a feeling of inadequacy even when that's not necessarily the case. This difference shows that happiness often depends not on circumstances but on one's perspective. It's noteworthy that people who live simply tend to be less afraid of loss. By not attaching too much value to material possessions or fame, they don't worry too much when things change. This lightness helps them adapt more quickly to change and maintain mental stability. People who live overly complicated lives often have too many things to hold on to, so each change becomes a major source of pressure, making it difficult for them to experience lasting peace. Living simply also helps people reconnect with themselves more. When we are less preoccupied with unnecessary things, we have time to listen to our thoughts and feelings. This self-understanding helps us adjust our lives in a more suitable direction, thereby feeling satisfied with our choices. The feeling of living true to what we believe in is one of the deepest sources of happiness. Ultimately, happiness doesn't always come from having more, but often from having less. Less worry, less comparison, less excessive desires, and less chasing after things that aren't truly necessary. As layers of complexity are gradually removed, life becomes lighter, and the mind has enough space to feel joy. Those who live simply don't necessarily have more, but they often experience more happiness because they know how to pause, reflect, and appreciate what is present in their daily lives. The simpler life is, the more peaceful the heart becomes. This isn't just a comforting saying, but a very real experience that many people have realized after years of busy lives. When young people often think that happiness lies in achieving more, having more, and receiving more recognition. But the more upheavals we go through, the more we understand that the things that bring the most peace of mind are often very simple: stable health, a warm family, a few genuine relationships, and a sense of security in each passing day. When we reduce our desires, we no longer put so much pressure on ourselves. Excessive desires leave us feeling constantly unfulfilled, even when we already possess many valuable things. Conversely, when we know what is enough for us, we begin to experience contentment more frequently. This contentment doesn't stop us from moving forward, but rather allows us to progress with a lighter and more sustained spirit, because we are no longer driven by feelings of inadequacy. When we stop comparing ourselves to others, our minds become much more at peace. Comparison causes people to constantly look outward and forget their own journey. Everyone has different circumstances, starting points, and paths, so comparison often only creates pressure without providing real value. When we return to focusing on our own progress, even just small steps each day, we still feel joy knowing we are on the right track. When the pursuit of victory is reduced, relationships become smoother. Many conflicts in life don't stem from major issues, but from each person wanting to be right. When people learn to listen more, compromise when necessary, and prioritize harmony over winning or losing, they realize that inner peace is far more valuable than the feeling of superiority in a brief argument. Happiness isn't far away. It appears in every moment when the mind is no longer burdened by excessive desires and anxieties. Waking up in the morning with a light heart, enjoying a meal in peace, having a simple but sincere conversation, all of these are happiness if we slow down enough to appreciate them. When life is simplified, we realize that much joy has always been around us. If you find these insights valuable, please share this video with your loved ones to remind yourselves of a more peaceful way of living. And subscribe to the Simple Philosophy channel so that every day we can learn to live more deeply, more peacefully, and appreciate the simple yet enduring things in life.